I need to be very careful with my words, not because I care about what happened to this man, but because I don't want to give the wealthy another excuse to shadow ban me. For about half a decade, I've been fighting to push a stop shopping message. I've been pushing this message as a safe, legal, and civil way to try and rally the masses, the poor, the working class, and the middle class. I've been trying to rally them so that we can work together to get the attention of the wealthy. I hope that by now we all know that the reasons our lives aren't better than they are is because the wealthy use their money, power, and status to purchase, bribe, and control our politicians. Your government are basically employees of the wealthy. The wealthy even go so far as to hire their own actors and place them in positions within our government. The wealthy then pay their employees to write, push, and pass bills, policies, and laws that help the wealthy get and stay wealthy. And unfortunately, those bills, policies, and laws always hurt us. For example, United Health Group, the company that Thompson ran, gave almost $5 million to political candidates in 2009. Immediately after, the Affordable Care Act was passed. That act, alongside a lot of other nonsense, made it mandatory for citizens to have some form of health insurance or be penalized if they didn't. That means that millions of people who never needed health insurance in the past would now be required to help fund the health insurance industry. So, for example, if you were a young man who started working at the age of 18, you normally wouldn't worry about health insurance because you rarely got sick. After the Affordable Care Act was passed, you were now required to get health insurance. Let's look at this in numbers. I'll use myself as an example. I didn't get health insurance until my late 20s, like around 28, and I rarely used it at that time. If this act had been passed when I was a teenager, I would have been required to get health insurance. That means I would have been forced to pay premiums to an insurance company whether I used them or not. So let's say my monthly premiums were $200. 200 times 12 is 2400. That's 2400 a year. 2400 times 10 years is 24,000. So by the time I hit 28, if I started paying at the age of 18, I would have contributed 24,000 to one of these health insurance companies. There are over 300 million people in this country. If each person is being forced to pay $24,000 a year to these health insurance companies, that's over $7 trillion that these companies would pull in within a decade. 7 trillion extracted from the poor and handed over to the wealthy. And this was made possible because United Health Group and other wealthy business owners paid our politicians to pass this law that would make them richer at our expense, that would extract the money that we could use for ourselves and hand it over to them for services that we don't even use, for services that make it difficult to use them even when we faithfully pay our premiums.
In California, my understanding is that about 1 out of 3 healthcare dollars goes not to doctors, not to nurses, not to medicine, not to making us well or keeping us from getting sick. It goes to administration. And that is basically the crux of the problem right now. Our system is designed to make money for the drug companies and the insurance companies, not to provide quality health care to all people.
Brian Thompson, he himself made over $10 million in just 1 year. And that's thanks to his company altering the law to make themselves richer at our expense. Let's not also forget to mention the dishonest way that these insurance companies work, rigging it so that you can faithfully pay your premiums, but they also hit you with copays and deductibles. They also purposely work to deny claims so that they don't have to uphold their part of the bargain. Despite this, the government never sees this as problematic and never goes after the insurance companies. And it's because they're paid to look the other way and ignore the illegal acts committed by the wealthy. Now, I know that was a lot, but I wanted to give an example of how the wealthy are using their money to destroy our lives so that they can become richer. There are many other examples I could give, but that would take days. The point is this: the wealthy use their money to enrich themselves at our expense, and it's devastating our lives. So I've been trying to rally people to boycott certain businesses, to change the way that they shop, so that we can wrest back some portion of control from the wealthy. If enough of us stop shopping in these big chain stores, the wealthy, who will start losing money, will then sit down and work out a way to give us some concessions. Once that's done, and we're all sitting at the table, then we can really fight. It's legal, it's safe, and it's civil. And I'm not the only one pushing this message. There are a lot of others out there on social media doing the same. But the wealthy use their money to shadow ban us, to throttle our channels, to hide us, and to sabotage us. So our message is being suppressed and it doesn't get out there. So the wealthy want to use their money to hurt us by controlling our government so that they can get rich at our expense. And when we try to protest and fight back in some way via legal, safe, and civil means, they use their money to squash that. Well, what do you think's going to happen next? Once the people feel like they have no other choice, they're going to strike back using violence. And the wealthy seem to be too stupid to understand this. This is the second wealthy person to go within a month. First, Will Rothschild burned to death in his house, and now Brian Thompson is shot. Now, I don't know the reason he was shot. It could have nothing to do with a disgruntled citizen getting revenge on one of the wealthy for destroying our lives. But I do believe that we have reached a tipping point, and the masses now want payback for all the decades and centuries of abuse. You stupid, wealthy animals want to hurt us and then silence us when we try to speak and use just our voices to try and get change. Well, guess what? There are other methods people will start using, and I don't think you'll like those. To all my black brothers and sisters out there, I've been talking about a black purge for a couple of years now. And the reason I gave for this was I said the masses were going to start becoming desperate and fed up. And to keep themselves safe, the wealthy were going to enact plans to put a target on us blacks. They'll use us once again to distract the masses and create a divide and conquer tactic. You're starting to see now the masses getting so fed up that they're going after the wealthy. That's the first step. The next step is the wealthy start to find ways to make us blacks the target so that they can take the heat off of themselves and put it somewhere else. This is one of the main reasons we are treated the way that we are. It's because the wealthy know they can always use us as a distraction by painting us as villains. If you're not prepared, good luck. But things are starting to go down the path that I figured they'd go down, and I don't like what I think is at the end of that path. So prepare yourselves. And to the wealthy out there, you better stop treating us like animals, because once we really start acting like animals, you'll be in real trouble. We don't have a problem with you being wealthy. The problem is this: you all go out of your way to sabotage the rest of us, to use your money to squash any safe and civil way that we can fight back, to squash and destroy any way that we can protect ourselves and help prop ourselves back up to the level where we need to be, where we're at least comfortable. You squash and destroy that using your money, and you think we're not going to fight back? You don't let us fight back in a civil way? Well, we're going to fight back in other ways. Last thing is this: black people, if you want to know why we're always targeted and picked on, and why white society will never get the same unequal and unjust treatment that we get, then look no further than this recent example. When blacks are targeted, aggrieved, and attacked, we march, protest, and beg. When white people are targeted, aggrieved, and attacked for too long, this is what they do. The wealthy know who they can and can't openly pick on. Oh, and one other thing. Watch them try to use this to push gun control. Shootings in schools, murders happening all over the country via guns. But now a wealthy person has been murdered. Watch them try to use this to push gun control measures.